Hello everyone, I hope you're doing really well. It's the 3rd of April 2025. I hope you're enjoying the new year. That's why they call it April Fools. I'm Gary Waterman, a former UK police constable, and since 2022 I've acquired irrefutable, verifiable evidence of decades-long international government fraud. This is where our governments have been utilising the company registration systems to commit crime, forging them and forging the incorporation documents to create criminal entity companies. This means they're able to exploit and victimise billions of people in relation to the taxation system and other financial institutions, but also facilitate serious crimes against humanity, in particular against children. Now, there's irrefutable links to these satanic cults, and I'm going to show very significant evidence in relation to that in the next videos and documents. But today, I want to show you this evidence and discussions around the end of the world. Thank you. The presentation, I've rushed this document together to get it out to you. Please verify and corroborate as much of the information as you can. The first screenshots are taken from my Telegram channel. You can see the 10th of March here. I released a video which was talking about disabling what I believe is the imminent threat to humanity, whether that be physically, psychologically, or through control of directed energy, the cell towers, and the other similar technology that's been put in place, smart meters, etc. Now, I suspect that will tie in potentially with other technology to potentially lead to transhumanism. Remember, we have a satanic cult connection. This is now irrefutable, and I'm going to show you that in my next document and evidence. So this was on the 10th of March. I also, on the same day, put a summary, of my latest evidence in relation to the directed energy threat, and this included making links to the Hacklowick company, to the royal family, to the Nicola Bulley case, tying in all international government fraud throughout, and submitted that on the 10th of March. Now, I'd been sending all of my evidence to Deborah Fleming, who was the person that initiated my removal from the company Exporn Manor Freehold Limited for refusing to file forged bank documents. And you can see here's some correspondence from back on the 10th of April 2024. There was also a lot of other correspondence on emails, and no doubt that evidence will be released at some point. So on the 10th of March, I also sent Deborah this message, the same message, talking and showing the evidence in relation to the threat from directed energy, 10th of March. The same day, you can see here, Deborah changed the timer on the messaging system, which meant that it would remove the messages, new messages, after 90 days. That had never happened before. She'd never done that before. This tells us two things. First of all, nothing is being done about the Flemings. Okay, so we're being led to believe that Donald Trump is coming in and sorting out all of the fraud and the child trafficking. Clearly, that's not the case, because the Flemings and JP Morgan are all over the international government fraud, going right back a long way. Very serious implication in relation to all of this fraud. And it tells us the second thing, that this latest evidence that I've submitted or published has caused them to put the timer on. So therefore, it's very significant. The 10th of March. Around the same time, or a few days later, I had a TikTok video pop up on my TikTok. And this is a screenshot taken from it, and I'm going to show you that video now.
It's probably the end of the world.
Wow. I don't know what to say to that.
You know, when I listen to these climate lunatics, and they talk about global warming, and they say the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch in the next 300 years, and and nobody ever talks about nuclear weapons or some of the other things, but the nuclear weapons in particular right now. And they talk about the climate, and they talk about the dangers of the climate, but they don't talk about the dangers of a nuclear weapon, which could happen tomorrow. They say in 300 years, I watched Biden for years say the existential threat. He loved the term existential threat. Our greatest existential threat is from the climate. And I said, no. The greatest is sitting in shelves in various countries called nuclear weapons that are big monsters that can blow your heads off for miles and miles and miles. And they never mention that. It's probably the end of the world.
Now, that appears to be a video of Donald Trump talking about the end of the world and tying in with nuclear weapons. Now, research on the articles surrounding that show these articles here. One on the 9th of March, okay, which is on the Daily Mail. You can see 9th of March, the day before I released the evidence. And here's a screenshot from that. Donald Trump warns of an atomic Armageddon and says monster nuclear weapons could end the world, adding it could happen tomorrow. And this was on the 9th of March, but then they updated it on the 10th of March, the same day. Remember that the Flemings changed the timer. This has to be significant. There's other articles on the 10th of March talking about it, okay? Not the bottom one, though, not the Sky one, but the top one, 10th of March, okay? Some other ones here, New York Post and the ANI News, 10th of March. Here's one of the articles, the ANI News. But when you search the mainstream media, i.e. the BBC television, BBC channels, I can find nothing in relation to it. Now, this suggests, as has previously supported, that they have two sets of information going out to two potential groups of people, because you have some people watching television and mainstream news, and you have others who don't believe that and therefore watch the social media. Now, they control, and other channels on the internet. Now, they control all information. All social media companies go back to the fraud, all mainstream media. Okay, they control the flow of it. They're suppressing me. And I did a video actually recently and said they've suddenly allowed my videos, 400, I think it was over, how many is it, 400,000? They allowed some videos going out talking about a strike. When I mentioned them allowing that, they've now suppressed it, and the next set of videos that I've sent aren't being allowed to be seen so much. And just to confirm that, here's my TikTok account. You can see the middle video there that was allowed to have over 400,000 views. And then the latest one, so in the left-hand one there that you can see they had 13,000, I mentioned that they're allowing it, and then suddenly you can see all of the other videos have practically no views. So this is what they're doing. They're watching everything I'm doing, and they're controlling the flow of my information and evidence, and trying to mock me in the process of doing it as well. Going back to the document. So I was being led to, now remember, this is significant because it's around the same date, okay? So it appears as though they're trying to create a distraction from the directed energy threat, okay? But here's some screenshots taken from my previous document in relation to the Iona St. Columbus prophecy, talking about the end of the world. And I was directed to this information, initial information, by people I believe were compromised by the fraud and working with Export Manor Freehold Limited. And you can see it led to a prophecy talking about the end of the world, if I can get it to go over that way. And it said, instead a monk's voice shall be lowing of cattle, but ere the world come to an end. Okay, and this related to Iona off the coast of Scotland. Further down on the document, and I will share this full document with those that are on my circulated channels and also Telegram, but it's massively compromised. Okay, so Telegram that I've just shown to you actually goes back to Vistra, which goes back to Export Manor Freehold Limited, and I was being pushed and directed to use that. Little did I know at that point it actually was linked massively to the frauds. They're watching everything. But here you can see on the document that I've produced, 3 days after I was led to the, sorry, I just lost the screen went funny then. 3 days after I thought I had averted something big with this group of people that I trusted at the time, I received a message from Tony Roberts. Now, Tony Roberts works with the Flemings. He was the acting chairman that resigned on right back at the beginning of this for me in July 2022. He was the acting chairman for Export Manor Freehold Limited. And when I wanted to look at the bank documents, he became angry and resigned. Deborah Fleming, when she initiated my removal, she also initiated the reinstatement of Tony Roberts as the a director again, and they filed the forged bank documents. That is what appeared to happen. And Tony Roberts sent me this message 3 days after I thought I'd averted something big on WhatsApp, and it says, "The end is nigh" is a phrase frequently used in relation to potential apocalyptical and eschatological events of the biblical apocalypse. So they wanted me to get back on the belief of an apocalyptic event and publicise it to the world, because they knew I was publicising all of the evidence. Further down in the Iona Prophecy document, I then made irrefutable links to the Fleming family again. Okay, but initially here you can see Iona, and they withheld some of the information. There were companies started in February 2022, I believe that is, as I was making inquiries and reporting the fraud. And you will see this full document, those of you that are on my contact list. Also, it made links to Schroeder, okay, and that ties in with the royal family because Thomas Kingston worked for Schroeder and was supposedly found dead in the beginning of 2024. Climate change companies, various other Schroeder companies. Fraud all the way throughout, okay? Fraud all the way throughout. It then made links to Russian companies and Ivan the Terrible Productions Limited, okay? A company called the Terrible Productions. And Ivan the Terrible was supposedly somebody that lived in around the 1500s and linked to Russia, very important link to Russia. He was described by followers as followers of Orthodox Christianity, but in his own specific manner. He placed the most emphasis on defending the divine right of the ruler to unlimited power under God. Some scholars explain the sadistic and brutal deeds of Ivan the Terrible with the religious concepts of the 16th century, which included drowning and roasting people alive. So basically, they believed they could be gods and bring about suffering to individuals. So this was tied into the Iona research, okay? Further down, if I can move the screen around, I then found links to the World Trade Center disaster via the Liberty Funds companies, okay? Changes in the documents around the time of the inquiries at Exbourne Manor. And then links to Rothschild's companies coming in as well. They're all through the fraud. You can see the page numbers of the document on the bottom right here. Okay, so then I make links to the Rothschilds, who, if you don't know, are a German banking family going back a long time and are massively implicated in this fraud. Now, some of these companies I'm showing you, you will see this exact same companies overlap and feature in the Satanic cult and temple connection that I'm going to show in the next lot of videos. The Prince's Regeneration Trust. It's the same company. Further down, you then have links to the diocesan companies, okay? Now, there's a reason I'm saying all of this. So you find links to the Church of England and diocesan companies. Incorporated in June 2022, as I'm reporting and making inquiries within the company. And then you find links to the Fleming family companies, okay? Fraud all the way throughout. And also links to Ingenious Film Partners 2 LLP. Okay, now Ingenious features on the royal family document. Unfortunately, it also features very closely to my closest friend, or some of my closest friends that I've known all of my life, Emma Ailing, okay, who was a solicitor brought in to try and acquire the authentic bank documents at the time of the inquiries taking place in relation to Exbourne Manor. And Emma links quickly to a company that was dissolved as she appeared to block me on my WhatsApp. This is one of my best friend's wives, and I'm going to show all of the evidence in relation to this. And that company then linked into Ingenious Film Partners too. It shows how deep this really goes. It's awful. We then find links. Remember, this is all coming in from the Iona companies. I then make links to Royal Navy and Royal Marines, and you'll see that ties in with Donna Jones and the Police and Crime Commissioner, Donna Jones, but also the Police Chief Constable Scott Chilton for Hampshire, who was overseeing Dorset Police at the time of me making the reports to Dorset Police, and also Sam de Raya, who was the Assistant Chief Constable. And you're going to see links in that to the Satanic Temple. Also, Edinburgh International Festival. You'll see that on the temple documents, the Satanic Temple. Also, Lloyd's Bank connections. Remember, I acquired forged Lloyd's Bank documents from Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited before I was removed. Further Lloyd's Bank connections. Now, Iona is very close to where the Flemings actually lived. You can see on the map here, according to the research, here's Iona, an island on the west coast of Scotland, and the Flemings, some of the Fleming family, lived in Arnisdale, which is there on the map. And it then makes links to the James Bond companies. There's then links to Masonic companies. Here you can see Stockton Masonic, Queen Street Masonic Temple. On the right, the Royal Masonic Benevolent Institution. All coming in from Iona. I then find connections via the research and via the research of Ian Fleming to Acona, which is to do with arms control in relation to nuclear weapons. And then research then makes connections to Dorset and Hampshire Cultural Trust, which features again in the Satanic cult research that you will see. Now, there's a reason I'm showing you all of this. Research in relation to Deborah Fleming. Apologise for the presentation. This was an older document. And the research very quickly links to the Salisbury Diocesan Board of Education. Remember, Deborah Fleming is the one where the timer was stopped recently on the 10th of March and who initiated the meeting for my removal. So we have now a connection to Deborah Fleming to the Church of England. Via the Exmoor Manor research document that I have, which has not been publicised, I then make links to a Rowbury company, somebody I know with that surname. You know who you are. I also then make connections to Vistra, and I'm going to show all of this in its entirety. I'm just showing you a link. There's also a link to Israel via one of the shareholders. What a pleasant lady she was at the time of me dealing with all of this with the company. To Rosalind Sugar. Oh, my goodness me. You can see Rosalind Sugar is mentioned here, linking to Israel articles. And John Fleming research, okay, who is Deborah's husband, linked to the research of the Church Council of the Ecclesiastic Parish of St Mark's, Talbot Village, Bournemouth. So in all of this, what I say is carry on. Okay, if the plan is to end the world through a collaborative international satanic deception against humanity whilst they hide out in their tunnels, then carry on. I have information, and I believe that if that happens, it will conclude with their own demise, and the tunnel systems will be flooded. Now, of course, those of you that are being drawn into this by avoiding the truth and being led into what you believe may be sanctuary whilst you remove the innocence of humanity, is this your judgment through you avoiding the truth? Is it that the Flemings, who are linked to the church network and therefore potentially righteousness and against Satan, are setting up the ability to remove those who are sinners and continue to be sinners by taking to those tunnel systems to be flooded? I think there's a lot people need to consider with this. And really, the only option is that people need to speak the truth loud and repent. And you need to assist in the transition to a new earth for the innocents that have been deceived and do not deserve a false judgment by a satanic group of individuals. But I am not fearful, because I know I stand in my efforts to safeguard humanity and safeguard the most innocent of all, the children. And I am willing to die for that. Thank you.